Hello and welcome to Everyday Journal number 95, your favorite, most deceptively named bi-weekly legacy podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by our new Patreons Eben Miller, Sebastian Hollager, Ozymandias17, as well as Matthew Hagbard, who increased his pledge last month. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. Matt, Callum, how's it going? How did you live one of the most explosive days in legacy history?
It's everything I want. We're going to skip past the what has everyone been up to lately, aren't we?
Yeah, pretty much. My entire day has been sitting there. I even downloaded a script that automatically updates the website where there's supposed to be the. Yeah, this has been my entire day.
I was posting a picture of a broken F5 button around loads of chats, just this is.
Yeah, people were telling me I was actually crashing the servers and I should stop doing, but I think I don't have those powers yet. I probably need a couple more computers to do that. Maybe we can DDoS the Wizards website.
I'll be honest. I woke up this morning kind of feeling a huge amount of anxiety today, which I don't usually have. I'm usually pretty calm in the mornings, and all the time up until, because it hits around 4 p.m. UK time, and the whole day I was just like, God, I just feel like they're not going to do anything properly, and Legacy's going to drag on for a bit longer, and I was really worried that they would nuke the other formats and just kind of tweak Legacy or something, but wow, they delivered in spades. What do you guys think as well then?
Na 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 na. I am quite excited because guess what? It's Rhino time.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I guess that's the kind of deck that Anurag always keeps talking about in our chats when he says, "Hey, people are gonna try to bring back the dead decks and they're gonna be surprised." And every time I'm like, I actually have no idea which. It sounds smart, but then I'm like, I actually don't know which kind of deck he would be talking about in the first place. And I'm like, okay, here comes Matt, Mr. Rhino. Okay.
Oko was a real problem, and Ice Fang Kodal was a real problem. And these were and of course you can just play all the Abrupt Decays in the world, and then they play Veil Summer, and you're just like, my life is miserable, and then you're just like, well, I guess I'm going to play Enchantress, and, well, it'll be not so fun for everyone, and then, well, now it's going to be fun for me again. And they banned Dreadhorde Arcanist, right? So I'm like, or did I misread that?
I just realized we haven't actually said what's happened, so
we should do that, yeah.
To give a quick
breaking news, everyone, breaking news.
We're too excited. So they basically nuked all the formats, but we'll concentrate on the ones that matter because this is the biggest BNR announcement I'm pretty sure ever.
And with huge. That, we're going to announce Pioneer has banned, I don't even know.
Yeah. So Legacy, Arcan's Astrolabe is banned, Dreadhorde Arcanist is banned, Oko Thief of Crowns is banned, and additionally to that, they made a rules change to the Cascade ability. So the tool I didn't read of that is you cannot cascade into the Tibalt Planeswalker anymore.
Perfect. I guess without getting too technical, the way it works is it works intuitively now. It doesn't also the way they fixed it is super sweet because it's such a minor technical thing. But the thing that people need to take away is Cascade works the way you would think it worked if you just played Legacy for half a year or something. It's intuitive and it makes sense.
Because you can actually still cascade into the second half, but you can only do that if the second half's mana cost is less as well.
Which it's again makes fix. Intuitive sense.
Yeah, totally. And I think this was almost like a written one. Everyone expected this because it was such bullshit. So this was kind of locked in and no one was really worried about it. But people were expecting an Oko ban. But based on where this whole hype came from was last week they had a Secret Lairs announcement. And in the Secret Lairs announcement, there was a Secret Lair with Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath in. And they put an addendum saying, this card is going to be banned in Pioneer, Historic, and Modern. As I really like that they did that. Even though it made a whole week of a lame duck formats and stuff, it's such a feel bad if people pre-order it and then the card is banned. So
I agree. That's a nice move for them to not basically say switcheroo, fuck you.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying there was a secret layer to the secret layer because
a layer.
Levels, Jerry. Levels.
Maybe we can read even more between the lines. Maybe they're going to unban Black Lotus now.
Yeah, right.
I think they did in Vintage, right?
At these prices?
The cat is coming back.
So yeah, Lurrus of the Dream Den is unbanned in Vintage. This is so it's the first card to ever be banned in Vintage, and it's the first card to ever be unbanned in Vintage. The Lurrus thing is amazing because we will get into the proper wording of the article soon, which I am a massive fan of. But they basically said, we're unbanning Lurrus, and we banned it because it's the only way to actually stop the card. We're unbanning it as a test. We're seeing if it's okay, and we are keeping an eye on it. I love that they say that because it leaves no like doubt in people's mind of, oh my god, if it's way too good, we're just stuck with it forever. It's a hands-on approach. Wizards of the Coast is listening to people, and they are willing to unban or ban things. So maybe this sets a really good precedent to unban more things in Legacy, which people have been wanting for ages. Maybe they unban Earthcraft, Survival. I think we have some survival fans on this podcast. I could be wrong.
You know what's funny about survival? For the longest of times, I could get on board with not unbanning, for example, survival, because it would be too expensive, right? I don't even know. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a place that set you back like 1,000 or something. But with like what Legacy has become monetary wise, like I don't know. And if you get to play with it online, I've changed. Like, I've hated it when Survival was banned. Then after a while, I was like, I guess I can see it from a financial standpoint. But now I'm like, fuck it, unban it, do it. We played it in Legacy Unchained, and even though that format was more powerful than normal Legacy, fuck it, bring back Survival.
Yeah, I mean, so I would love that, because it really does say that, they are... again, like I said, we'll get into the wording of the article in a minute, but, it just says that they are listening to public outcry or lack of outcry or anything like that. They are listening to people, and they're willing to take a bit of a different road and see how things are. So,
and I think they're also basically saying, like, hey, if you decide to buy Japanese foil Lures of the Dream Den and it gets banned again, don't bitch and complain, because we told you so. So,
yes,
maybe like semi-pimp your way there and then see how it goes.
Yes, definitely.
Very important.
So for those that do want to play with these cards, the effective date is today. I've heard that people are playing in leagues with these cards still, but hopefully it'll be updated soon. The Cascade rules effective in 2 days on February the 17th. So you do have to deal with Valky if you're playing online for the next day or two. Maybe
take some time off, kids. Take some time off.
Yeah, exactly. Enjoy it. Just relax and enjoy the time. So we'll get into what is our first impressions. Like, as I said, the language used in the article is something different. They're trying to make it a fun format. Is like, I'm paraphrasing, but they said with the COVID restrictions and lack of tabletop play, to put it in their words, or paper play, there's just this like hyper focused attention of winning more in Legacy rather than playing what you enjoy about the format, and it compressed the results so much into like tuning these decks and stuff, and it led to unfun play patterns from the Snoko and the Delver decks because the cards were too good and not very fun. So they've said that the win rates of Snoko and Delver weren't like high enough to get a ban like normal. In the past BNRs, they've cited win rates in addition to saying that it has a good matchup against too many of the other decks in the format. But this time they specifically said they're not too good, but the unfun play patterns and the lack of diversity are the reasons for these bannings. So what do you guys think of that?
I think that's the best thing you could really do. Like, that's basically what people have been asking for. And I always get so pissed when like people disingenuously say, oh, but it's not too powerful, why would you ban it? Like, yeah, come on. Like, this is not the argument in the first place, and this is what Wizards has been following with this ban, like, as well. I think somewhat of a precedent was kind of set a little bit with Mental Misstep, because I mean, Mental Misstep was pretty much, everyone was super powerful, but I think even more than how good Mental Misstep was the idea that it really fucks up gameplay. Like, it just generally across the board, it makes Magic less enjoyable, and I think even more so with these cards, that's the thing. I think another thing where this played a role was with, for example, Gitaxian Probe. Gitaxian Probe also took away like a huge aspect of the game, and I'm not even talking about bluffing. Like, when people talk about bluffing, I think they way overestimate like how important and how rarely it actually is good to bluff. But just like the mental game of representing something is different from bluffing something. When you bluff something, you put your game on the line, whereas if you represent something, it's more like you're jousting for position and like almost like a chess match. And that's another precedent, but I really like that they called this out here, because that's basically the number one argument why a lot of people wanted to see these cards gone. It's not like everybody wanted to see these cards gone. There's like voices who wanted to keep all of those around, but in the end, it's not like by not making a decision, as in like not banning them, you're not making a choice. You're still making a choice even if you don't ban them, because then you're saying, okay, I guess we should just keep them around. And I really like that Wizards has been following this philosophy of, okay, people think this is like really fucked up gameplay, and lose me with that like silent majority thing that's like creeps up all over the world these days, where people are like, oh yeah, but actually like everybody likes Oko, it's just like you guys. Yeah, come on. Get lost.
So I mean, I'm thinking very similarly to Julian here. I mean,
that's why you're on the podcast, man. You're here to support me.
The echo chamber is very important.
Checks in the mail.
So what we have to think about is, so what's the actual cutoff, right? Is it like, it needs to have a win rate of 55%? If it only hits 53%, it's not good enough? Well, obviously not. Does that 2% really make the difference? Or is it the gameplay and there are fewer people playing, etc.? Like, I would say that I have quote-unquote heard of many people being very upset with Oko and these Snoko decks, and it's just miserable to play against, etc., etc. I mean, obviously you have to use both metrics. You can't just say, I don't like playing against pox, we should really ban smallpox, and enough people complain about smallpox will get banned. I think obviously they have to look at the data as well as how players are feeling about it, but as long as they're doing that instead of just looking at the data like they used to be, I'm perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, the thing is, like, if there's a deck that's really miserable to play against, but it's not good, then the way you ban it is just to, like, you kick its ass every time and you laugh at it.
Yeah, exactly. Like my Shahrazad Fork deck that I was playing a while back with, like, Time Elemental and anyway, it was a crazy, terrible deck. But anyway, the point was, it was just designed to go into subgames. But anyway.
Yeah, and it's not like these decks are not doing well as well. They are like, I mean, if you look at the results of just last weekend, Rug Delver was like moly. 15, 16 of the top 32, and the Turbo Valky decks are everywhere. And I know they are pretty consistent. Like, based on, so Joe X Folrath has been doing loads of work to get all the data from the challenges and all the big events. So shout out to him for doing that because it's fantastic.
He's a legacy treasure.
Yeah, completely. He really is. So thank you so much, Joe, for doing that. I'm sure everyone is thankful for it.
And his crew, like he's got so many people working, like not working for him for money, I guess, but working for his project. So shout out to all of those people.
They don't get anything for it, but just the feedback should be
they
great.
get recognition on the Everyday Journal podcast. I mean, come on. If you want to like have, like, is there a reason why we don't have any ads? Because our rates are so high. So if we give somebody a shout out, that's easily a couple $1,000s.
It's actually more expensive than a Super Bowl slot, but don't put that out too much.
Yeah,
it's true.
But these decks were pretty consistently like 50-55% win rates. I would gander. It's somewhere in the middle there. Like they cited the Ren and 6 Delver decks as having 55% win rate, which honestly sounded a bit low for them, but that's the numbers they gave. So I doubt this is much less, honestly. So
yeah, the biggest thing about Ren and 6 was that they said it has like a favorable matchup against the top 10 most played decks other than Ren and 6.
I think it was like the top 9 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, right, and like that leads to an insane expected win percentage across the tournament, and that's absolutely why it had to. Ever since then, people have been citing that 55% win percentage, but I really think it's important to put it into context of that being against the top 9 decks, because if your win percentage is against
Mill or Turbostasis or something like that, like that's not really a relevant metric to use.
Dude, Mill is amazing. I've been doing a couple of like Patreon streams with Mill, and those are great.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we have to go through the winners and losers of this whole thing and what this really all means for the format. So, like, I don't know, like, Callum, what do you think about, like, what does this actually mean? Like, these bans, what do you expect to see going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like, it's hard to say because it's just like, it's so different. It's amazing how much of a stranglehold all these cards had on diversity, mostly. One of my personal biggest grudges, which I always told friends when I said I was not happy with the format, was the homogeneity of like all the decks together. Like Astrolabe made it so I mean, Astrolabe was the one that surprised me on this ban announcement, honestly. Like, I'm happy it's gone. I'm more happy than I expected to be with it gone. But I didn't like that all the mid-range and control decks came together. Like Oko and Uro were just the best mid-range threats and endgames. Astrolabe let you play all the Source of Plowshares into the Pyroblast, into the Abrupt Decay, just everything. But now I'm really hoping we see like Grixis control come back, and Miracles or Blue-White Standstill or Sharksteel come back.
Bug Delver
could come. Like, yeah, I mean, there's all these things, like all these different colors and Jund could.
Okay, let's go not too crazy here.
Okay, so yeah, I agree. Like, I think what will end up happening instead of the homogeneity of having all these different mid-range and control decks coming together, I think they will start to really suss each other apart again. I think we really will start to see these differences in colors and card choices. So, like, you will have the Punishing Fire decks will come back, right? And you won't have these, like, 4-color terrible decks because remember, like, Deathrite Shaman has been banned. So, like, I think for a long time, since 2012, people relied on Deathrite Shaman, right? And then Deathrite Shaman got banned, and of course then Astrolabe got printed, so Astrolabe kind of filled that gap a little bit, but now there's neither of those, right? So I think that's very...
Will we see Prophetic Prism make a run at the format? Yeah, maybe not.
You know what I like? They in their reasoning by the band, the stuff they cite several times, for example with Oko, they say that generally oh my fucking god.
Homogeneity.
Genizes. Come on, you can't tell me that you know how to pronounce that word. It generally homogenizes gameplay patterns in a way that's counter to the spirit of the format. Hell yeah. Fuck you, that's it. Also, they say, traditionally in Legacy, deck builders need to make choices. Yes. It leads to less metagame diversity, yes. Too many games come down to whether an opponent can immediately remove it. Speaking of Dreadhorde Arcanist, yes. That's all the fucking stuff I've been talking about. And especially like with Dreadhorde Arcanist, whenever I say I want advantages to be less granular. And that's always means like, you can't snowball away. And with Dreadhorde Arcanist, Dreadhorde Arcanist is the ultimate snowball card. Like, we had stuff like green mana battery and white mana battery and stuff, but like, fuck that. That hasn't been a thing in like 50 years, I don't know.
Dreadhorde going is my absolute dream. Like, I mean, we've not hidden it on this podcast that we've thought it's like the best and most oppressive card in the format for a long time, and this is why all of the outcry has mostly been against Oko, Labe, and Uro to a lesser extent. But I think we've pretty pushed that Dreadhorde is the most oppressive card, and it is the card that made me just not really enjoy playing the format. And it's just like every time you're a specialist on the draw and they just play it turn 2, you're just like, fuck, what do I do? This thing is just ridiculous. So yeah,
it was crazy. Like, you were happy if you got dazed on your first turn because that meant your opponent couldn't play Dreadhorde Arcanist on the second turn.
Insane.
It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just nuts. I think that card is too much. But anyway, what do I also think is going to happen is, I mean, for a lot of people, playing artifacts was almost a liability in the Oko metagame, right? You're like, oh, I've got this trump, and it's like Ensnaring Bridge, or it's Trinisphere, or whatever, and then they play Oko, and you're like, well, fuck my life. Well, I guess that kind of fucking happened. So
Oko made Bridge just like a joke because they play it, and then they just keep making elks until they have enough lethal, and they just elk the bridge. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
So I can definitely see like a lot more artifact-based strategies. So like there was the Tesserator deck is actually, I mean, I'm not saying that that's a good deck, but I'm saying like you can actually play that deck without being laughed at. And you can now play cards like Ensnaring Bridge and Trinisphere and Chalice of the Void and all these other cards that are now, and Thopter Foundry, just saying.
And see, I think that's the level 1. That's the level 1 that's going to happen. Like all these cards like Blood Moon, whether it's or Ensnaring Bridge, whatever, Chalice of the Void, those things are inherently better because their biggest foe is going to be Gun. And I think that's just the level 1. I think the next level is that we're just going to go back to playing decks that don't mind those cards too much. Like, if your deck literally can't beat Ensnaring Bridge, what the fuck? You still have to deal with it. Previously, we had Oko. Now we gotta make a little more conscious choices about how we build our decks and what about our sideboards.
You still got Abrupt Decay.
I think, yeah, you still got Abrupt Decay, which is probably like the premier removal of the... Like, I mean, honestly, like, Oko probably was actually the premier removal of the format, which is kind of crazy.
Definitely.
But like that, there's not many enchantments you were going to hit with Abrupt Decay anyway. Like, all the ones you care about cost like 4 mana. But I guess Abrupt Decay, but that's kind of hard to hit unless you float mana. So I think that those cards that Matt mentioned are going to be more relevant again, like, no doubt. But I also think, especially like stuff like Chalice and stuff, I don't know, in my head, Chalice has always been this niche card that's not... I know that for many people it's considered like almost a pillar of the format, but to me that's never been really the case with Chalice. I always like look at Chalice as a thing it's around, and the people who want to play it gonna play it, but everybody's got their ways around Chalice unless you're literally playing, I don't know, 2009 Rock Diver, or I guess we call it Canadian Threshold back then, and even then you probably have some ways. But so yeah, I mean, maybe I'm too hopeful, but I think that we're going to see a lot more different mid-range formats decks going on. I'm not too crazy to think that like actual aggro decks are going to come back, because those are just generally always kept out by how good combo is and also by potentially Maverick. But I think by now, like that's just like the bigger thing, that combos are good against actual aggro decks, but those are not going to come back. But everything else, we're going to see a rejuvenation of so many legacy decks, and I'm so excited for it. Like, seriously, so fucking excited.
I'm very excited as well. So realistically, so Callum, let's go through with the losers. Who's the biggest loser here, or the biggest losers?
Yeah, so let's get some of the easy ones out the way first, because there are some obviously. So the Turbo Valky deck was around for like a week or whatever. With the
You're
errata.
really calling it Turbo Valky?
Sorry, Turbo Tybalt. Sorry. I've just written it wrong. I actually had a friend have a go at me in a chat earlier this morning for naming it wrong. So this is my second strike. One more and I'm out, but I don't think I'll get there. Turbo Tybalt. Yep, that's just dead. Fine. Good riddance. One of the most hilarious losers is Pokepile, which Jax put a picture on Twitter earlier, and he just said, like, this is Pokepile with the announcement. It was just like 20 lands, nothing else.
20 lands and a bunch of cantrips.
Yeah, exactly. So, that gameplay of stifle you into snowbally threat is pretty much gone. So I think that deck. I mean, Jeff is a great deck builder. He'll probably go towards some either miracles based thing or just some control mid range deck, and they will exist. But that deck feels pretty dead.
I'm imagining him to turn into some kind of Esper guy, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's too many creatures for him.
I think there'll be some still very good mid-range decks, and like I think there's going to be some good Esper decks or Grixis, or there's
equipment. Let's talk about the good stuff after. Let's keep going through the losers first. Then we'll talk about all the winners.
That's what Matt is here for. He wants to like put down the losers.
All right, so let's get the big one out of the way. Rug Delver. This deck is, I mean, it's just lost its two best threats. So Delver is no doubt still going to exist. It always will be. It's always going to be good while the card Delver and Daze and Wasteland exist. I think it's pushed back to basically pre-War of the Spark, where it was not the best deck. This is when Blue-White Stoneblade won the GP in the hands of Daniel Gertschel. This is when Delver really was like a tier 1.5 deck, which it hasn't been in that spot many times in the format. So this is the first big loser. The second big loser is obviously Snowco, without Astrolabe fixing all the colors and Oko being the premier threat. Obviously, control mid-range will exist, but in very, very different guises. So, these two, I'm pretty happy to say, like the Rug Delver as we know it, which was just a mid-range deck. It wasn't the tempo deck that we equate Delver with. And these 4 or 5 color Snowco kind of decks, they are pretty much gone, which is such a huge change to the format and the metagame, because they were the top 2 decks of the format and have been for like a long time. I mean, people were saying, just adjust to the metagame, whatever, but they have been the best decks for a good part of a year. So, yeah, huge losers. Moving on, we're going to think of some actual cards. So one card I think is hit because of the Astrolabe ban especially is Mystic Sanctuary. It's not been played that much, so it's not like a huge change in the metagame, and I think it's still okay to play in the right shells. Like standstill decks could play it, or miracles.
I could see it as one of them, like blue-green Showtime.
Yes, definitely, yeah. But without you can't just go island, and then you're casting all your lightning bolts and source of power shares off your Astrolabe.
And you're casting ball lightning of triple island.
Yes, exactly. Or like abrupt decay off your 2 islands and stuff. So
disgusting.
It comes with some very real deck building costs. Another loser, I think. Well, it's kind of a loser and it's kind of a winner. Is Icefang Coatl. It wasn't seeing that much play actually towards the end. It was basically in no Snowco lists, or sometimes 1 or 2. Icefang without Astrolabe means that it's not getting Death Touch until turn 3 at the earliest. Realistically, I think it's going to be turn 4. It depends how your mana's set up. It's very hard to tell if there's really enough to make these fair decks be in green, unless you're like a more dedicated green deck with stuff like Green Sun Zenith and Noble Hierarch and stuff.
Oh, I'll tell you all about it. Don't you worry.
Okay, we'll get there in a minute.
It's funny you mentioned Icefang Coatl as a potential loser, because like my first thought was, all those decks who used to play like 2 Icefang Coatls, they're gonna go back to playing 4 now.
It could be, yeah.
There's gonna be fewer decks who are gonna be able to play it, because mostly like control decks or mid-range, like blue mid-range control decks don't really want green all that much. But if they do, they get Whale, which is probably like, honestly, like, I guess we're gonna talk about the winners later on, okay? But Icefang Coatl, it's like with the format shifting back to like more creature focus, I think Icefang Coatl could be like a big thing.
It was embarrassing versus Arcanist, so yeah, it could be a winner. This one's up in the air. I think it lost some points and it gained some points, so actually it's probably neutral.
It's more like Dogecoin, the coin.
Yeah.
Dogecoin, I don't even know. It's kind of funny. Like Elon Musk hyped it up and then he put it down the next day, and now everybody doesn't know it. Like apparently, like all the cryptocurrencies now work according to the gospel of
he
Elon
hyped
Musk.
it up again today. So
That guy is a little bit of a shithead, but I love him for the
No, obviously you shit on it, then he buys a bunch, and he's like, "This is amazing," and that's
Exactly.
I mean, this is just like, anyway.
all right, so I'm shitty on Quattl, so I'm just going to buy them all up, and then yeah.
Exactly. And now the
you're
pitch
gonna
count.
make like
So what
5%
about
profit?
the pitch counter spells?
Yeah, this is huge. Force of Will. This goes back to like the old accepted thing where like Force of Will is bad in
Willenskraft.
Yeah, exactly. The German Force of Will is bad in the fair matchups because going down a card is a real cost. And what stopped that being a real cost was Oko was not strictly card advantage, but it was like worth spinning a card on because it's so powerful to land. And Ritual Arcanist just like snowballed and got you the cards back. Without Arcanist especially, Force of Will and Force of Negation lose a lot of power. They're still incredible cards in the format, no doubt. And there'll be plenty of decks playing them. They're still very good with Uro, because obviously you can just like throw extra ones away and you draw a card when it attacks, but they really have lost a lot. So I think this is going to be like a huge sigh of relief for anyone playing spells that you don't want to get counted, I guess. How do you guys feel about this?
Yeah, this goes back to what I said earlier about oh god, I keep repeating myself about that. People are gonna like make a meme out of it. I want
the
advantages to be less granular, more granular, and that's basically the gist of it, right? If you have Dreaded Arcanist, if you get like the unit is tempo, and by tempo I mean a turn in this case, and if you can trade off like your turn for a card, but then you untap and you get more than a card in return, because usually like getting to resolve a ponder for free is like worth more than a card. That just doesn't make sense, and that's why pitch counters were so good. You basically traded off the card you pitched for keeping your thing around that basically gave you like more than a random card from the top, and that's just like why it was so good and why everybody hated it. Because people, like previously, if your opponent played like Tarmogoyf on turn 2 and you play Abrupt Decay, and okay, Abrupt Decay is a bad example, you play a removal spell, Terror, on it, like Swords, Plowshares, whatever, and your opponent Force of Wills that, you usually feel like, oh, that's actually good for me. With Dreaded Arcanist, at best you're breaking even, and that's why it's so fucked up and why pitch counters are losing a lot. And at least in these kinds of decks, like I'm not even sure if they're still gonna play 6 pitch counters in the main and in those Rug Deva kind of decks. It's gonna depend a lot on which kind of threat they choose. If they're gonna go more mid-rangey or if they're gonna go super hard, like picking up Stifle and stuff again, which could be a thing.
I could see that. I could see the Stifle coming back. I could see more old school, like Tarmogoyf, Nimble Mongoose, Delver, like just tried and true, 2009, nothing special. Let's get this done. So,
I guess we're gonna have Deva.
Yeah. But
by the way, shoutouts to our friend Daniel Götzschel, who recently played like a ancient Ice Age whatever Deva list through a league, and I think he went like 4-1, just playing all the old cards from 10 years ago.
Nimble Mongoose was in the top 8 of the challenge yesterday.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, your boy. It's preparing for today's announcement. It was a Japanese player. I've forgotten the name, I'm afraid, but they knew. They were just preparing.
Well, that makes sense because they live like +6 from us, or like +8 time zone wise. That makes sense. They already knew about it
in the future.
So the real winners. So I mean, obviously, having played less Legacy than both of you gentlemen, I'm kind of almost going back in time to be like, when was I playing a lot more? And those are really the winners, right? We're going back in time to find them. So, in my personal opinion, winner number 1, not in terms of importance, but in terms of my favorite. Siege Rhino, obviously, so we'll get that out of the way first.
Well, okay. let's talk about where are you going to play Siege Rhino? What's it going to do?
Nick Fit, obviously.
Okay, we're going to put you on the spot, Matt. Where is Siege Rhino going to show up again? Is it going to be the sideboard tech for Ad Nauseam?
It could be, but I'm going to just play. I'm going to go back to playing more in the main board, because the biggest problem that you ever had with any of these, like
in the main board, dude, we're talking about which kind of, we're losing all of our street crutch here if you keep talking about this illusionary deck that apparently plays Siege Rhino.
Okay, we'll say just like big dumb creatures, right? But we'll get back to that. I just want to say Dunkle Mitweise.
Isn't that what Pioneer is about?
I don't know. You're talking to the wrong person about Pioneer. Dark Confidant.
I'm not even entirely positive that Matt knows that Pioneer is a format.
Pretty sure it's like a way of life, but anyway.
I mean,
Dark
is a way of life.
I want to talk about Dark Confidant. Can we talk about Dark Confidant?
Mm-hmm.
I want Dark Confidant.
Somebody has to.
Somebody has to. So, gentlemen, Oko's gone. I can play a 2-mana creature that maybe will draw me a card in a turn. Maybe.
And deal you some
Can I
damage.
play it? Can I play it?
Did you actually? You must have added that to our show notes. I can't imagine Callum adding.
No, it
Of
was
course I
definitely
added it. I
It was
added
definitely
it.
Yeah,
me to
of
put
course.
Dunkler Midvisor.
It's actually, if you think about Dreaded Arcanist and then you think about Dark Confident, it's actually embarrassing how much worse Dark Confident is. It's not even funny. It's so insanely much
It's
worse.
so much worse. But the question is, viewers will ask, can I play this card? And I think the answer is
Will they?
maybe.
Sorry, if I'm already down my second glass of wine. I think they won't ask that.
Inquiring minds need to know. Okay, anyway.
I
Callum, what do
wonder
you
if it actually sees play in like more than Nick Fit though. It was played in Grixis Delver sometimes as like a 2-of, as the mid-range threat and stuff.
think? Bug Delver.
Yeah, Bug Delver could be played as well. I think we'll see Grixis still because of Bolt and Pyroblast is so good. Although saying that, people cite Veil of Summer as the reason for him's like demise. I think people really underestimate how much worse it is without Astrolabe and
what are you protecting?
And Ur-
Like if you're playing your Veil of Summer and you're like, I'm going to use it to like gank the abrupt decays that are you're trying to protect your Okos. It's like, do you play Veil of Summer anymore? And the answer is like, maybe Cyborg.
yeah.
Sometimes.
I mean, it's a super powerful card, but it just has to line up perfectly in the metagame against what people are doing. So I've always thought that Veil is not the reason that him is not played. It's Uro. And Uro loses a lot with this thing. Although it's still legal in the format and people will play it because the card is incredibly powerful. Without the shell of like with Oko being, and then so base blue-green being the premier way to play control, and without Astrolabe to have all the colors to cast it easily from your graveyard, it does get hit. So I'm actually pretty, like, I never thought I'd say this after the last year we've had, but I'm genuinely actually excited to try Uro out again because it's had, it's so weird. If you told me I was saying this yesterday, I would say, like, shoot me. This is me blinking saying, help me. But I don't know.
Maybe we should do a video cast someday.
I mean, maybe in like a month's time, it's still ridiculous, and we're just saying,
Like, this is Callum sitting on like 200 copies of Uro and trying to hype it up again so he can like pay rent and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still going to see Chase discard it to Dak Faden, and we're going to.
Oh, you bought that too?
Oh yeah, I'm on the Dak train now. We're going to see a 60 card.
If you want to make big money, you invested in Snapcaster Mage because that guy's going to come back.
True, probably. So by extension, Spellster.
So him, maybe, Dark Confidant. What about basic lands? I think they're all going to be switching back to
This is my
regular...
favorite thing.
I think they're going to switch back to regular basic lands. I'm just saying.
Sorry to shout at you, but oh my god, I'm so happy for this. I mean, fuck you, Ice Fan Quattler. I don't give a shit if I'm going to pretend I'm playing you. I'm going to play nice basics again, and I don't care. This is the thing that I'm so happy about, and like, it was the most depressing thing having to like just always know that you're defaulting to snow lands because, and it was a real cost. Like we talked about on the last episode about like snow hate, because especially playing online, if you just go basic island go, you're just telling your opponent you're not playing Snowco, which is a huge thing. And this is my. I said already that Dreaded Darkness going is my favorite thing, but actually this is my favorite thing. I promise. I love
so what are
playing
your favorite
with nice
basics? I know what Matt is going to answer.
Mine are Mirage. I'm a sucker for all the Mirage art, so yeah.
I'm down for Mercadian Masks.
Yeah, it's nice. Matt, what about you?
Mirage and Portal 1.
Oh,
if I'm
yes.
choosing for...
Oh yeah, Portal is amazing.
Matt, I'm going to give you an E fist bump because, yeah, Portal is like my second choice.
Portal's quite good.
You know that island that has that hot air balloon?
Yes, so good. Yeah.
But it's actually summer. Now I can play my summer basics again and not...
There's the real flex.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what you gotta know? Like last time I visited Matt in Vancouver, he had like summer basics and dual lands and like a plastic bag on the floor, and I was like, oh, this is probably like your draft commons, whatever. It's like, no, this is basic summer island and black bordered tundra, and like, okay, this is a special house here.
But do you have any summer siege rhinos yet?
Well, one day.
I'll sort you out, don't worry. Yeah.
So Wasteland.
Wasteland's back.
That's a card.
I mean, maybe this is contentious after what everyone said, because people were saying the card is bad against Astrolabe, which obviously it is because people just play more basics. But I don't think it was ever that bad. Against the decks that had Astrolabe and basics, sometimes it makes it look embarrassing, but the times it's good, it can really steal games. There were still plenty of decks. Depths was still a very real deck. I don't think it was ever as bad as people let on, but there's no doubt it gets better without Astrolabe in the format. So we'll probably just see it carry on being one of the most played cards in the format, and it's a nice safety valve.
I think it depends on, like, the power of Wasteland is going to depend on how much greed people are going to carry over into the new metagame. If everybody still wants to be Strifer and play like 4-color without Astrolabe, they are in for a rude awakening. But if people are going to be like good and just play like 3 colors and have a bunch of basics there and do okay.
I think the two are
connected.
I think the two are also connected. Like, I think Wasteland is going to see more play because cards like Knight of the Reliquary are also going to see more play. Like, Knight becomes a better card again. So, like, people who haven't been playing a long time forget that turn 2 Knight of the Reliquary, untap Wasteland you is a thing. So, enjoy.
Oh, the good
Fuck
script
you.
ranger. You can even do it 3 times the script ranger. That's actually insane.
Woof.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, we didn't put it in the show notes, but Knight, good again. What do you think?
We did put it in the show notes, but
did we?
But correct, yeah.
I did. Yes.
So like we said earlier on, that big creatures will really will be a star again. So like, for example, we're going to see Gurmane Angler. Well, I don't know about Tassiger, but like Knight of the Reliquary, like creatures in general become good again.
Yeah, that's the one I'm on board with. Like creatures in general. I think that.
Tarmogoyf, like I think all these creatures before coming from the deck that plays the most big dumb creatures that don't have hexproof, right? Like all you would do is your fear was you would slam big threat, whether it comes into playability or something special or not, and then they would go +1, and you'd be like, fuck. And then that would be your life. And so now you actually have like playing Tombstalker could be okay again. Playing Knight of the Reliquary could be okay again.
Don't play with my feelings like that, Matt.
I'm hoping.
I think that the thing it's going to depend a lot on how much Icewind Codal is going to see play, but also how much Baleful Strix is going to see play. Because with like things being a little bit more restrictive mana wise, maybe Baleful Strix is actually the one that's going to see more play. And I think the size of your creature isn't all that important. Like once it goes to 4/4, it doesn't really matter how much bigger it gets from 4/4. I guess it's like if it's like a 4/5, maybe it also beats your Hooting Mandrills if those are still going to be a thing, which I think they could be. But from there, it's going to depend a lot on like what control decks really want to be doing, which kind of removal they want to be playing, and how prominent these death touches are going to be.
And also, like, how prevalent does Punishing Fire become as well, right? As part of this whole
fuck
consortium.
That card. I mean, that card's never going to get banned, but it's stupid. It's the epitome. By the way, I learned that it's not pronounced epitome, but every non-native speaker, I think it's called pronounced epitome. Anyways, it's the epitome of the kind of Magic I don't want to play. It's stupid, and it's
just
my second class
wasteland
being
grove.
about to be finished.
But, I mean, it's going to be nice, like, okay, so if Baleful Strix comes back, and Baleful Strix is a big force, and people are like, ugh, fucking Baleful Strix again. And it's like, well, Punishing Fire's a card again, right? So you're going to get those
but then
cards.
You still played 3 mana to answer their 2 mana thing, and I don't want to be in that spot. I just hate Baleful Punishing Fire because it's like Dark Banishing, basically. It's 3 mana, remove a creature, and I think that's not a thing in Legacy. I mean, it gets okay once you do it the second time, and it gets actually good once you do it the third time.
Of course.
But, yeah,
I
don't want to be the guy who does that.
But, like, the lands deck is going to, like, the Punishing Fire, red-green, splash, whatever, lands deck, 4-color Agrolome, like, all those start to become like, oh, yeah, they're going to peek their head up again because this is probably going to be a very powerful tool in the upcoming metagame. So I am excited for both the big creatures coming back, hopefully, and I think I'll obviously be frustrated with Punishing Fire because, when you get Punishing Fired for the 4th time and you can't break the lock, you're just going to be like, ugh, I'm miserable again. But I'm miserable with something else instead of Oko, so I think that's okay.
So Matt has already accepted being miserable all the time.
If you want to feel miserable, try Punishing Firing Elks over and over again.
Well, that's the thing, right? And that's why it was totally unplayable. Like, so, Julian, the next one, please pronounce.
Kelch der Leere.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, that's Chalice of the Void. That card. I mean, it's just inherently gonna come back somewhat just because Oko is gonna be gone, and I think it's not even only about Oko. It's the thing that converted mana costs are gonna shift down a little bit again, especially in Delver decks, as Delver decks are gonna play more of a tempo deck again, and they're not gonna try to mid-range you out, and even like sometimes play a control deck, which that's that. I mean, they still can, but that's a whole Jonathan Alexander point of interpretation of the Rock Delver thing, which you could write an entire book about. But just inherently, Chalice of the Void is going to be a better card. But like I said early on, it's I think in the long run, it's gonna be relegated to just like your low. I can't say lower tier 2 deck. I think it's just gonna be a decent tier 2 deck at best, and I think that's the place for Chalice for the Legacy metagame right now, which still feels out to me because for me it's more like a pet tier 3 deck, but it's here to be tier 2 and gonna be a thing.
Yeah, people are definitely going to play it. Like, it's been so out of the format for so long. I mean, people do enjoy playing these decks. We have Eldrazi on our show notes as well. This one, the only thing that makes me question it is because Uro is still legal. The deck no doubt had struggles with Oko and everything, and the ease at casting Uro. And so I think Eldrazi being good really depends on if Uro is still good. And I think there's a very good chance it is. Depends on the decks, of course. But the decks playing Uro generally aren't super weak to Chalice. Like, they don't have so many 1-drops. And obviously just being the 6/6 that it is, it really, really wrecks Eldrazi. So I think Moonstompy is going to be, like, and Full Color Loam are going to be the better Chalice decks. I'm going to take a punt at that. But we'll definitely see Eldrazi come back into the limelight a bit as well.
What? Anyway.
Sorry, I'm ordering pizza right now.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, so the next
well,
one. So just Callum, why don't you just go on to the next one, and you and I can just go back.
This one's a pretty simple one on level 1. So Blood Moon and Back to Basics probably do get better. So as we were talking about Chalice of the Void, and I just mentioned Moonstompy. I think Blood Moon again, the card wasn't actually that super duper terrible against Snow, but it was like a bad late game card because they get set up pretty easily.
Exactly.
But now without Astrolabe, people are probably going to be playing more duels again, or they're going to be limited to 2 or 3 colors tops, and then
exactly. And I think,
to it.
and the greed will be there, right? People will say, I need to flex out into more colors or more duels or more this, and people might go back to playing what was Snowco playing in terms of basics? Weren't they playing fucking 5 basics or something? A ridiculous amount of basics when you're playing Blood Moon, right? So if you can slam turn 1 Blood Moon while the deck with 5 basics, they might draw a basic or might have the basic in hand, but when you're going as they pull back on their basics, they might go down to 3 basics or 2, and then Blood Moon and Back to Basics are just that much better.
Yeah, I think we'll see which we had this about over a year or so ago, a real back and forth in metagame shifts between control decks. When control gets good, they try and fight each other and one-up each other by splashing for an extra Pyroblast or an extra Veil and stuff. And then as that happens, Blood Moon decks and Moonstompy get better, and then they punish the greed with a Blood Moon, and then those decks reel back in their greed and go back to 2, maybe 3 colors and respect the Blood Moon again, and then that gets worse, and it's a cyclical thing. It's an under the format level where I think we'll see that again, which is really fun to kind of go back and forth from. So
agreed.
As much as people hate getting Blood Moon challenged out, they are fun police to extents, and
agreed. Because if you have you can't have 5-color dual decks running rampant, because then that was what Check Pile, right? When Check Pile was running rampant with Deathrite Shaman, obviously they had Deathrite Shaman to kind of make the whole thing work, tie the room together, sort of. But now, fun police are back. And I think it's good. I think, obviously, Painter has obviously been bad since Sensei Divining Top, but, decks like that, right, are going to come back. And that leads us into Sneak and Show. I think Sneak and Show is an interesting option that's going to probably end
up...
What?
Fuck the greeds. We need to talk about the greeds.
Before we go to Sneak Show, I want to stop you there, Matt, and I want to talk about the greed, because a lot of people, I can't really say a lot of people, but some people, they hit me up on Twitter when I posted I was happy about Astrolabe being banned. They said, oh, no, I can't play Legacy again. I'm fine. I'm priced out of the format. And I feel like this is attacking the wrong spot. The thing you want to be attacking in the first place is fuck Wizards, fuck the reserve list. If this is what's keeping you out of the format in the first place, unless you want to play Death in Texas, which, by the way, I think is a decent choice. But if we are willing to make Legacy gameplay inherently worse I don't want to say accommodate, because that almost sounds condescending, but I'm not a native speaker, so
no,
I'm going to say accommodate.
It's accommodate.
Yeah, to accommodate people who otherwise couldn't be playing the format. And by the way, I'm saying that as somebody who doesn't even own a paper Legacy deck anymore. I have an almost finished Maverick deck, and by the way, I took it out today and I realized, fuck, even Oko is in that deck. So I think I feel you, and it sucks. But then again, does it really change all that much whether your deck costs 5,000 or 4,000 euros? I don't think all that much. And
okay. I have strong opinions on this for a few reasons. Number one, I would say that I am in a group of people who has a decent job, who can afford to buy these cards even at these ridiculous prices.
Teach me your ways.
However, work really hard and get lucky.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, exactly. What I am going to say, though, is that prices, I agree, are very high, especially in the last little bit with the crypto run and people getting out. And, like, we can talk, that's like an MTG finance sort of thing, and I'm not really going to address that. However, I will say that as someone who's been playing for a very long time and has accumulated the cards over many, many years, the prices are very expensive. And I think that if I was in a position, even now, to say, hi, would you like to hand over $10,000 to play this very expensive deck, that the answer might be no. So here are your options if you're saying, oh, I'm priced out of the format, this and that. I don't play Magic Online. However, a lot of people do. You gentlemen included. I think it's a great way and is a much cheaper way to enter the format compared to paper. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, totally.
I think it's a cheaper way, but it's not a greater way. I think if paper didn't exist in the first place, a lot of people wouldn't be playing Magic Online anyways.
I agree. But I'm saying it's better than not playing. Second, if you do have a good local legacy group, do you really care about playing for points? There are the people who want to get, I don't know, the pro point. I don't even know what the fuck's going on anymore with, like, the points that you get. It doesn't matter.
Like invitational coupon cards. I don't know.
It doesn't matter. If you have a really great group of people that you love playing with every week, do you need to run a sanctioned tournament? And the answer is maybe not, right? Gold-bordered Force of Wills still look like Force of Wills. Gold-bordered Cradles look like Cradles.
Yeah, but do you know how much gold-bordered Cradle is? Holy fuck, I was actually looking that up today. Do you have any idea how expensive that is?
I'm going to say it's greater than $30 because it's
a lot more.
It's a lot more. It's like almost close to 200 euros.
That's ridiculous. So then you take your Sharpie marker and you take your Rise of Eldrazi Forest or whatever set is most, I don't know what, Kaldheim Forest.
I lied, it's more like 150, but still.
So my point is that if you have a group of really good players that you want to play with, and the only thing keeping you out of playing the deck that you want to play is $1,000 Underground Seas, well then guess what? People need to get on board to build the community. Like, I understand that it's very expensive, but there are ways around it, and the only thing holding people, the community back is like, oh, we want to sanction this event, really sit down and think, what does sanctioning get you? Just think about the inclusivity.
It's funny you mentioned that because for the longest of time, I was very much against like promoting unsanctioned legacy because I always feel like, hey, being part of the greater Magic community is a great thing. But I think at this point, with how expensive legacy is these days, we are inherently soon not going to be part of the greater Magic community. At least the one that's tied to the mythic rival invitational qualifier league anymore. But we're still part of Magic. And no matter whether you're sanctioned or not, and especially maybe even more so in the future. And I mean, that's an entire episode of its own, but something that really opened my eyes was when I was talking to a friend of mine who had been playing a lot more paper legacy than I did, like right before COVID, at least like locally. And he actually told me, dude, there's so many fucking like, it probably sounds racist if I say Chinese fakes, because I'm not even sure if they're like from China or whatever, but you get the idea, right? There's fakes going on. And he told me like at these paper legacy events there, he plays against so many fake cards and he couldn't give like a shit at all. And maybe that's the future, but yeah, that's probably an entire episode of its own.
I agree. Like, I mean, it's hard to, like, I think as the price of cards go up and the fakes become better, obviously in terms of, I guess we'll say in terms of, like, I'm not worried about, like, somebody faking the Mona Lisa, right? Just like I'm not really worried about somebody faking an old Black Lotus, because there are, for those of us who have handled these cards for 20, 25, almost 30 years now, you just know, right? However, in terms of playing in a tournament...
Do we know?
I do, but, I mean...
I don't know how you do on, like, the very good ones. But honestly...
I'm talking about with the old cards. I'm talking about with the old cards, specifically.
Yeah, but I think the one thing that matters to me the most is that you never try to pass them off as real. Like if something
agreed.
Like a trade or something, or
they're
like
proxies. They're proxies, and that's
thing,
all.
You win. Yeah. That's the one thing that I care the most about, because I don't want people to be like, there's people who genuinely care about that, and that's a good thing, because like in proper tournaments it's still gonna be a thing of like, is it a fake or not. But so never try to rip off those. Maybe it's already happening. Like I always wonder whether there's maybe almost like perfect fakes out there and we just don't know yet, because if somebody could ever do that, they would make so much money. It's insane.
I will just jump in here and say, I think your point, this is a whole another episode, and I think this would be a really good topic to do. It's something that I mentioned to you, Julian, recently, how, in case anyone doesn't know, that myself, along with help of two friends, we've been running proxies allowed, unsanctioned... A fake shop, yes, exactly. Shh, don't tell anyone. In London, we've been running proxies allowed, fully just print off the printer at home, whatever, unsanctioned legacy events in London for the last 2 years plus, and we've been hitting numbers of 50 pretty easily towards the end until COVID. So I was hoping to either write an article or do a full episode of this podcast on it, and so we should definitely have that topic which you guys are discussing on
then
it
we're
as
going to
well.
be cancelled by Wizards. Oh man.
Maybe, but I think we're going to see a real shift to unsanctioned events and a push for it, and I think we need to just normalize it, basically.
It's happening in the greater Munich area as well. We basically, we're not nearly as big as the Legacy Monthly, and I'm not involved in organizing those, but I'm happy to take part in those. And yeah, that's a discussion that's been happening here as well, and at least the organizers, most of them are pretty pro-proxy, I think. By the way, Matt has to leave right now. He told us he has to stab some people in the face because that's apparently how they administer not COVID, the COVID vaccine in the United States of Canada.
Also
so
picking up a new shipment of seed rhinos as well.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to have some kind of crazy investment going on, try to invest in seed rhino. I'd give you good odds on that card ever coming back in Legacy.
Yeah. But to wrap that quick thing up, let's do an article, a podcast on that soon. Let us know on Twitter, the Discord and stuff if you have thoughts on that kind of thing, and if it's something you'd be interested in hearing. Because me personally, I want to really push proxies, but not fakes. There's a very big difference between proxies and fakes. I am very anti-proxy. I'm
Callum,
very pro-fake. No, the other way around. Shit.
You're
no.
a noob. You're a noob. If you
noob.
shout out your social media, you always gotta mention your social media. It's at EternalMTG. So hit us up at EternalMTG with all your desires, thoughts. I don't know anything about related to proxies and tournaments running unsanctioned.
Because I think this is a subject which hasn't really been a thing until the last year or so. Where maybe a couple of years, but prices have obviously gotten higher and higher, and the cost of jewels is now really, really too high and pushing people out. So, I've always been lending everyone that I can jewels. I've lent anyone anything
Jewels
I can afford.
Duels?
Jewels.
Jewelry. It's like, oh, you want to wear a nice tiara from the Victorian area? Sure, take this one.
We should make a band called Run the Jewels. But
you know what's also interesting? If you play all these paper Magic online tournaments, nobody's going to verify whether you're going to play with a proper card, and that's I'm just throwing that out there.
True. All right, back to the matter at hand, shall we? So we're still finishing off the winners. Just as a caveat to both the winners and the losers, we are definitely forgetting things because this is such a huge shake-up. This is what I've just been going in my head today and what's been going through Julian and Matt's head. So if we forgot wine, and I've got a beer, I've got a nice passion fruit mango sour.
I usually never drink an entire bottle of wine during a podcast, but now I'm almost there. This tells you how important this podcast is going to be.
I'll let you talk about the greed in a minute then, because I know you want to rant about it.
This is really great. Oh, the greed? Didn't we already finish off the greed?
Oh, you put your funny voice on.
Oh, that was my friend. I live with Darth Vader.
Yeah, definitely. So we're about to say Sneak and Show. So this is with the caveat that I think Sneak and Show is just always insane. Week 1 or 2 or 3 and 4 after a big shake-up, and this is the biggest shake-up ever. So it's just it's a story as old as time itself, where something gets banned or unbanned, and JPA comes and kills you. So I don't know. Sneak and Show is just always the mediocre deck killer. If when you're trying to get cute or trying to do something different or new or something that's been in the shadows for a while. Yeah, Tome 1 Grizzlybrands with Force Backup are still there. The deck was never... I don't know, it was pretty bad for a while. You can't now put in an Emrakul and it gets +1 by Oko to make it into an Elk. Either going back to us saying Blood Moon's better. It can play Blood Moon in the sideboard or even main deck sometimes very well. So we'll probably see Sneak and Show back. I think Omnitel is probably also a very good place to go to, and by extension, Combo's gotten a lot better in the last couple of years with Veil of Summer, Thassa's Oracle. stuff like that. The card keeping it down most was Dreadhorde Arcanist. Like, combo really struggled with that card, and Dreadhorde let these combo decks that were set up to win the game ones actually win those game ones as the Delver side. So without Dreadhorde, I think we'll just see the combo decks be better, and they're already very good, but they are always easier to hate than Delver decks or like the blue mid-range decks. So I'm not too worried about them, honestly.
Yeah, Griselbrand, we're coming for you. You're going down. You are going down next. You think you're safe? Yeah, fuck you. Griselbrand, you're going down.
Hey, do you remember the play patterns of someone casts a Show and Tell, puts in Griselbrand, you put in a Knight, and then you tap Knight and get Caracas, and then you kill them next turn?
Yeah. Let's go back to that. Honestly, like that thing actually, like, Griselbrand was actually kind of surprisingly okay until like Omniscience became a thing. But
true.
Somehow I hate Griselbrand just so much more than Omniscience. Like Omniscience, yeah. Honestly, that's the kind of episode we're gonna have like 5 episodes from now when I'm gonna be fucked up by Show and Tell because I keep losing to it. But yeah, this is from the future.
We'll have a Julian Rants episode.
Yeah, maybe we should. I'm pretty calm today, right?
Yes, you're pretty good. All right, we've got one more on this list, and this is okay. I know I've said that the Astrolabe ban I was a favorite, and then the Dreadhorde I was really excited about, and then Basic Lands. This is probably the second most favorite thing on this whole the whole changes. So Dreadhorde number 1, no, Basics number 1, Dreadhorde number 2. This is number 3. I'm just excited about everything. I can't help it. Jace the Mind Sculptor. Jace could be back, maybe.
The toy, the newbie card. Everybody's like, oh, Chase, the mysterious planeswalker. He's wearing a blue hood.
He doesn't have to deal with
travel through time and
Astrolabes flying with 3/3 stats.
He's
in
the
his
living
face.
Guild Pact. Oh my god, nobody knows what that means. Not even Wizards, but he is.
Look, I'm going to tell you something, Julian. Nobody who likes Jace the Mind Sculptor cares about the lore like that. Maybe I'm going to get loads of like hate mail saying, hey, I care about the lore.
Dude. I recently got in a really big discussion about like hating Chase the Mind Sculptor, and they honestly made some points that I wasn't aware of. That there's like people who literally, but I can't say laugh, but like they really identify with Chase the Mind Sculptor. So when I go out there and I hate on Chase the Mind Sculptor, that hurts them. So I can see that.
But are you hating on Jace the Mind Sculptor or Jace the character? Because I don't like Jace the character either, but I love the card Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Jace the Mind Sculptor is amazing because I think like for 4 mana, it's okay for the power level that Legacy is at right now.
It's like the perfect card. It pulls you ahead.
I think
Go on.
We're sometimes using Chase the character as a punching bag for Wizards of the Coast in general because he's basically the face of what Wizards has done with Magic ever since 2009, when they basically made like the Chase Dice League or whatever they call it. So it could have been any of the Planeswalkers if they had picked them to be the poster boy of Magic, and it just happens to be Chase, and that's why everybody hates Chase, and by proxy, actually like the new Wizards policy ever since 2009. So it's really not that much about the character, it's more about the modus operandi of Wizards of pushing Chase into our faces, even though Chase is kind of bland, and I guess
Chase
most characters are somewhat bland. Like, I guess if we explode most of the other characters more, they'd also be rather bland. Like, which Magic characters are really deep? Like, okay, I don't even know how to pronounce them in English. Starke of like the Weatherlight saga, that guy was actually quite surprisingly cheap because he joined like the Weatherlight, and he wanted to actually like rescue his daughter, but the daughter was like being kept prisoner by Volrath or something. Like that character was actually deep. Chase is more like, okay, I'm not going to hate on Chase anymore because there's no point in it anyway.
I'm just saying,
that's going to come back.
I don't really care about Jace the character. I don't like it either, but it doesn't.
Ooh, you're cancelled now.
Oh shit! I don't read the lore. It's not my kind of thing. So I just love playing with Jace the Mind Sculptor. It feels like a beautifully rounded card, and it's amazing. It's like until Oko, which pushed it out, basically, it stood the test of time as this like kind of like icon and structure of what a 4-drop in Legacy can look like. It's totally beatable. You can beat it. You can attack it. You can do things to it. But it's a 4-drop which will win the game. But you need like stuff built around it, and you need a couple of turns to do that as well. It is the incremental advantage, but it's an expensive card as well. So it's honestly just one of my favorite cards ever, and I'm excited to play it again.
Maybe we should actually do like an episode about the rules of Legacy. Number one, you don't talk about the rules of Legacy. Number two, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, a couple of things, people brought that up on Twitter the other day, especially like people who only got into Legacy in the last couple of years. What are the rules of Legacy? And I think one of the core rules of Legacy has always been your 4-drops gotta win the game, especially if you untap with it. And that has been true for Natural Order, that has been true for Chase, that has been true for Sneak Attack. That's one of the... And you gotta think about where is this core rule coming from. The core rule is coming from the environment that we're playing in. And that environment is Spell Pierce and Flusterstorm. So all your 4-drops basically cost 6. And 6 is insanely hard to get to in Legacy, even if you're using Veteran Explorer. And that's why we say if you resolve your 6-drop and you even untap with it, you deserve to win the game. And if that is the kind of Magic you want to play, where you like deflect, 4-drop win, that's a way to win in Legacy. When I watched the Super Bowl, and at least in the German version, they had like ways to win the game for the two different teams. And I think like, I mean, yeah, we talk about, okay, you can have a combo deck or you can be like the Delver deck, but the ways to win the game are more like on a metaphysical level. And that level is like untap with my 4-drop. And that's how you win. Like, that's one of the ways to win the game in Legacy. And yeah, that's probably another episode of its own.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be an interesting topic because all of these these rules come from, I think, the kind of the beginning of Legacy and the SCG kind of days. I mean, some of the other rules, like just off the top of my head, were like Force is bad in fair matchups. Cantrips are better if you slow roll them. There's all these kind of things where I will say, I know we've like hyped up Javier's article on cantrips. I'm very interested to see if that dynamic changes again. Without Dreadhorde and Oko, I wonder if you are rewarded for playing your cantrip slower again. It'd be interesting to see. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Javier's article was actually one of the very first things that I thought about, because I will never reference that one again, at least the current metagame right now,
yeah.
Because it's completely turned on its head again. Now it's more about like picking your battle, choosing your battle, like finding out where you want to throw in your Force of Will, and that reminds me a lot of like typical Bavarian card games, where you also have like these chokers, I want to say, that win you that one position, but you gotta pick that position. And with cards like Dread of Arcanist, it was actually spelled out for you when that position was gonna happen. And now you have to, I don't want to be like as condescending as somebody would say in this spot, now you have to think again. I mean, you still had to think in the other position as well, but you have to think a little bit more again, I think.
I agree. And I think we got to be careful, because it's very easy to fall into this like kind of feeling of Legacy is just the same as 2 years ago, or a year ago, whatever it was, because it's not. There are still lots of new cards. There's still Khan, there's Teferi, there's Oko, there's Veil of Summer, Field of the Dead to combat control. Like, there's a lot of new cards still in the format. Force of Negation, of course, as well. So we can't just go back to old Legacy, but we're going to see this, hopefully, which I think is super interesting, this meshing of old heuristics and new heuristics. And these are going to change, maybe, based on decks and the matchup and the fluctuating format, and if it's like cyclical and stuff. And I don't know, it just seems amazing to me now. I'm just talking about it out loud. Yeah, I mean, there might be some decks where you still are rewarded to just play your cantrips as fast as possible. But I mean,
there's gonna be Eldrazi.
Eldrazi's playing Ponder turn 1, turn 2 Charles. But I mean, like,
that's the next level.
Well, look, I mean, we're saying Gurmag Angler is potentially good again. That's a reason to play your cantrips sooner. It depends if combo is really good. You play your cantrip sooner to find the counter magic or the right interaction. Like, we might see more active things with
my wind up brain thinks that Gurmag Angler is basically a fixed version of Dread Arcanist.
Well, where are you getting that from? I don't know.
from you just saying it's better to play your cantrips early on. You know that's the meme that Danielle posted one day where it's like the old lady and she's like, oh, the best brainstorm is the one you never cast, and then there's Dread Arcanist accompanying her to wherever, and she's like, yeah, sure, mom, we go to bed now. And yeah, that, I mean, you don't really want to cast your Gurmag Angler early on anyway, because it's usually like not that great anyway, because you have to like you said, cast your cantrips, like your turn one brainstorm, even if you don't want to. Yeah. If you really want to like turbo it out, and turboing out stuff is not great in a format where you have 2 mana draw a card, Wrath Touchers, and all of this overall thing, I think we're really that much closer to chess again, and that just feels so great. Like, we keep talking about like new episode topics. I think one of the greatest things about Magic is that it's not like chess. For Mark Rosewater, or was it Aaron Forsyth, for as much as we criticize them at times, one of them was it, who wrote a really great article about why variance is making Magic great, and I wholeheartedly agree with it. Like, one of the major reasons why we play Magic is that we can play it without feeling stupid for not having devoted like 16 hours a day to learning all the openings and mid games and end games, and variance is what lets us do that, and that's just a great thing. I just felt like with Dredge of Darkness in the format, variance was just like pushed too much, and I feel like everybody's been cooling down again, and like, once you untap with your 2-drop, it's not going to be an insane advantage. It's just going to be a Tarmogoyf. And that's just like a thing in Legacy as well. Like, being smart and knowing you can take a couple of hits from a certain card because it's not inherently going to generate an advantage because you use your life total as a resource, that's smart and that's cool. And figuring out to which degree you can like operate on that mode, that's cool. That's what makes Magic fun. And yeah, that's going to come back a little bit more.
Yeah, very much agree. Like, this is kind of new heuristics we talked about on the podcast and some of the latest.
Heuristics, that's the good word.
Yeah, heuristics.
It's good to have a native speaker on the podcast.
Yeah, this is some of the things we talked about, like changing these old heuristics from these old kind of rules you set yourself as you learn the format. On some of the recent episodes, we said life total as a resource isn't a thing anymore. If you're blocking, you're losing. These kind of ideas of like ways to play games as a structure of rules before you have to think about it further. These things are going to be rolled back, and I think we do need to rethink things, because when remember when Lurrus was banned and Breach was banned, we basically instantly called out, we're like, okay, Snow is, I mean, every podcast did this, everyone knew Snow was back, and it happened, it was true. Now
stole our thoughts.
Yeah, but now we have no idea, and it's really refreshing, because I think we need to be careful not to fall back into like all these old, as I said, all these old ideas are true, but we need to not fall back into like these old decks are good again. There's going to be, again, a real meshing of deck building as well, and it really does feel like a new format. It feels so open. My only worry is maybe Uro is still really, really good, but as I said, I'm excited.
That's your worry?
It's one of them. I mean,
I have a much bigger worry.
Go on, what's your worry?
I mean, you probably already know, like, which deck is probably going to be, like, insane now.
What, Omnitel?
I hope you can guess. I'm going to give you Omnitel, but I was thinking about a different deck, but Omnitel is up there.
Okay. Doomsday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. That's the card, that's the deck I'm scared to hell about. Like, there's so few ways to actually hate Doomsday. Like, how do you hate Doomsday?
Well, the deck always struggled with, look, we can take some words from our friend Martin Neville-Sute. He said it really struggles with blue-red Delver more than Rug Delver when he's been playing recently, because the extra bolts, faster clock with just more threats that deal damage rather than generate card advantage sometimes. I mean, Dredge is obviously insane against them, but like the deck does struggle with bolts, and as we said before, Delver or other decks might go back to Stifle again, Him might come back. I just think combo is a lot easier to hate out than these fair blue decks, so you know, these decks are really good. Don't get me wrong. Omnitel and Doomsday are incredibly powerful, and they probably will be the two premier combo decks for a bit. But I don't know. You can play stuff like Torpor Orb, and you can play loads of Pyroblasts.
Really?
Yes, you can. It's just
yeah,
what.
Okay.
Okay, it's the first thing that came to my head. Don't play Torpor Orb
We just
and
bought the
Elves.
fourth card that Callum invested in, Torpor Orb.
But look, play Stifle then. Play fucking Trick Mind for all you want. I don't know.
I know, it's just like feels like such a meme. Like, I have Stifle. Like, how is Stifle against Doomsday that much better than Stifle against Ad Nauseam? I mean, I get it. Ad Nauseam draws all the deck and they discard, and then yeah, whatever. But it's kind of crazy, like how hard it is to actually hate Doomsday, because Doomsday inherently is like so untouchable.
Kind of, but Stifle is Doomsday is a bit more mana intensive as well. It like can play less than 4 petals, that doesn't often. It plays 1 LED for the combo piles. Sometimes they cut it recently. Stifle like is not a good mana denial tool against Storm historically, because they play more fast mana and they have Past in Flames and these extra LEDs. Like, try and stifle a fetch land against Storm and they'll just go off with like writ LED Past in Flames. Stifling a land from Doomsday is a legit thing, especially when you have a clock from like Blue Red Delver.
That's true. Especially now that they don't have like some Doomsday lists they usually played.
Well, they played Dreadhorde and Oko as well, so yeah.
Yeah, but also Astrolabe, right? And if you want to get to like double black, then you actually need the Dark Ritual, I guess. So yeah, I guess that they also took a little bit of a hit, and Nevershoot, they actually mentioned that Delver's gonna become a harder matchup. Even though I guess you gotta account for Dreaded Arcanist being gone, so you can play a little bit of a longer game without being up against the wall of counters.
I mean, maybe this brings Ant back. I don't know. Like, people often said Ant died because of Veil, but I don't think that's true necessarily. Like it's just a very good card against them. It's similar to Stifle.
Sorry. Sorry. Oh my god, I had too much wine. You just
Nice.
You just said it didn't die because of this card. It just happens to be really good against.
Well, no, it's true.
I totally see your point. Seriously, I see your point. You say it's like a very good card, but it's not like a meta game ending card for them. I totally see your point.
Exactly. I mean, you need to fight through it. You need to have a Flusterstorm for it, or you need to like maybe silence or whatever. Maybe that can come back. But I think Storm really suffered against Dreadhorde because it couldn't play that slow game. If you remember before Dreadhorde, all the good Storm players said, yeah, Delve is so easy because you just like play your lands and then you just kill them eventually because you can beat triple Force Will or whatever. You couldn't do that because Dreadhorde would find the more threats to close the clock quicker and have like 10,000 Force Wills. So,
10,000.
At least, maybe more, who knows. So,
what's the best counterspell in Legacy right now?
Days. And it has been forever. No, probably... Maybe it is Days now. I've said Force Will was the best card in Legacy recently.
Whoa.
Yeah, I did. It was like a what they call hot takes. But I think with Dreadhorde and Oko around, I said it was better than Brainstorm, and I believed that completely. But with the changes now, it probably changes, and I think Days might be a better card than Force Will. We'll see.
I think Days inherently is a better card than Force of Will. Force of Will is horrendous.
It's not when you have Dreadhorde in play.
Yeah, see. I mean, I'm talking about the status quo. I'm
true.
talking about that's what's happening. Days is pretty good. That Days is gonna be like Days is an all-time great card.
So to close out, so we've gone over some losers and winners. To close,
we're closing out already. Oh,
no, not the whole episode. We've got some questions. I want to get like take a step back and. What do you? I mean, as I know, I've said that I have no idea what's going to happen. But what are some of your predictions on what the format will look like?
It's going to be a lot more fun.
Yes. this is
what
wine.
They pay me for.
Wine
this is the
Julian.
kind of deep analysis that they pay me for.
Yeah.
I still got to figure out who they are, but I mean that's basically it. Honestly, though, I think it's gonna be. I think the most important thing is. To always, like, if you want to figure out a format, that's just like my way to approach any kind of format is, what is the dominant aggressive deck in the format? Because that's gonna spell how much you can spend on the rest of the format. Like, how much, like, basically, ever since Legacy has been a thing, 3 and 4 was the top end. You could never really spend 5 on anything. And I think, I'm not sure whether Rock Diver is going to be the best thing again. Maybe it's going to be Grixis Diver, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's actually going to be Blue Red Diver, and Blue Red Diver is going to be limiting you to even lower mana cost because Blue Red Diver is even faster, while a little less controlish. Almost, I want to say. I just feel like once that has been figured out, once you've reached the Nash equilibrium, whatever of what makes sense to play in the aggressive slot, and then we can determine how far we can go on the quote-unquote control mid-range slot. And once that has been figured out, everything else is going to be filled with what's viable as a mid-range deck. And I think if you ask me, Blue Red Diver is probably going to be a thing, but it's also a boring deck. Like, come on. So it's going to be more like Grixis Diver, Rock
a lot
Diver.
of people enjoy it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have money. Me included, by the way. I'm probably one of the poorest people you've listened to.
Oh, because you can't get
anyway.
the volcanic islands. I see.
I can't even get anything. I have like 3 Savannah, and that's it, and a bunch of Okos who are not worth anything anymore. But no, seriously, like this is the thing. And then I think the much more interesting thing is, what is the kind of wannabe control deck in the format? I've been pretty vocal that I always thought that hard control decks, that's the pet deck of the format. That's never really. I mean, okay, this is like Julian's rules of Legacy. Yeah, this is Julian's rules of Legacy. I think hard control can only ever be a pet deck because when hard control is viable, something's broken in the format. And I think looking back at the bans that enabled hard control and then ended up being banned, like, Mental Misstep or any kind of those things, Census Dividing Top, those ended up being banned. And
unbanned top. Sorry,
yeah,
what was that? I've got a top as
keep
well.
survival banned than unbanned top. So yeah, I think hard control, that's the pet deck of the format. But then we have these like mid-range control-ish decks. Like
I will just say I see where you're coming from, and I get the idea of it. but I disagree that like you can definitely have a control deck which is like tier 1 but not oppressive.
Whoa, never.
Yeah,
Never.
Absolutely. I'm going to prove you
control
wrong.
deck, like a proper hard control deck being tier 1, it's like poison for the format.
I think Sharksteel could be very good now, and it's my first deck I'm going to play, so we'll see.
If you make Sharksteel tier 1, we're going to get something banned out of it, seriously. I mean, Sharksteel is like decent as a tier 2 deck.
Yeah.
Also, but I mean that, here goes another episode of its own, like what does it actually mean to be, like we have this really long discussion with Anurag on Twitter and like legacy chats and stuff about like what does tier 1 and tier 2 actually mean. I think people inherently not agreeing on what it means to be tier 1 and tier 2 in the first place is what like makes these discussions kind of weird in the first place. But I just think that the concept of an actual hard control deck means that you want to take away an entire aspect of the game to make the game easier for yourself to play, and that makes it so that the game overall becomes a little bit more stupid, and that's just like why it always ends up with something banned if it's actually good. Because people are gonna be pissed off by something inherently being removed from the format and being quote unquote dumped down, which is kind of weird, I guess, for a lot of people. But yeah, that's one of my strongest opinion about.
I think
Legacy.
some pushback against that can be that if I think you
can't push back against somebody who's had 1 liter of red wine from Spain.
So the pushback against your idea, not you, is that this is like you're coming from the perspective of this control deck being tier 1 and there not being many other viable tier 1 things to play against it. We've like Miracles was head and shoulders above the rest, kind of the best thing, and maybe Check Pile kind of was, but there was also Delver, but they were similar. I mean, there could very well be existing a metagame where Sharksteel, just for example, it could be a different kind of control deck as well, exists as a tier 1 deck, but there is still a blue-red Delver, there's a Maverick or whatever, there's a 4-color Loam.
There's a Doomsday, which is totally
going to destroy
you.
There's an Omnitel. Yeah, I mean, there could exist this paradise.
Yeah, but all of those decks
1.
are not like inherently legacy decks. I mean, that's probably like the unfair way to phrase it.
I think I'd find a lot of people who
inherently
disagree
legacy
with that.
is like about is balancing a mid-range deck in between an aggressive deck, which could be a driver deck, and balancing against like something like a mid-range controlish decks, and having somewhat of a decent matchup against combo. And I think that's inherently the greater framework of open world legacy. And every time this kind of delicate balance gets disrupted, Wizards steps in and they ban shit. And that's why I love Wizards for how they manage the legacy ban list. I've been playing the format since... Okay, seriously, I've actually really only been playing the format since 2006 or 7. I want to say since 2004 because that's when it wasn't like created, but I really didn't. I only like got it into like 2005 and then like, yeah, whatever. My first Legacy tournament was in 2007. I feel ashamed for it because that already feels late. But yeah, anyways, I feel like every time I've seen a disruption in the Force, it was by cards or decks shaking up this great balance. And then Wizards, as our overlords and our gods, step in, and there's like, okay, we fucked up, let's re-establish this balance. And I feel like we finally arrived at this balance again. And now I'm happy. Mm-hmm. I mean, Griselbrand is still a thing, fuck the card, but I'm
we'll
happy.
We'll see. I don't want to fall into this like this safety net yet, but yeah, I'm very, very optimistic about the future of Legacy. I'm very excited to play it again. You've probably heard my enthusiasm and excitement from just chatting tonight. Julian's gotten drunk because he's so excited to play it. Yeah, there's just great things ahead of us. So should we get into some
anything bad against Spanish wine? I think this one's from Barcelona. He aprendido a hablar español.
Sounds pretty good.
10 años. Oh, 12 años pasado.
Nice.
You can keep on.
I've been drinking
insane.
a Pressure Drop beer, which is like a UK brewery called Future Sunshine. And it's a passion fruit, peach, and pineapple triple fruited sour. Nice.
Sorry. This is just too much for me. I've only had beer twice in my life, and every time I had beer, I got a lot of money for it. Dora,
sours you might like. It's just like juices, but with beer in.
Anything that's bitter, but we talked about like that genetic thing that I have, that like anything bitter tastes like 10 times more bitter to me.
Oh, no, but yes. Anyway,
so
should we get on some questions?
In this position where you can't eat cucumbers, you hate coffee, you hate beer, you're in the same boat than I am. You've got this stupid gene active that tells you like bitter is actually 10 times more bitter. And yeah, cucumbers are the worst. We should probably form some kind of support group.
That's another episode, right? Talking about how much cucumbers suck.
Maybe we should like open a food podcast, especially since considering how our Discord, like our everyday eternal.
You guys should do that, but without me, because I'm not much of a cook. But you in the Discord
could become one. What's the difference between a cook and a chef? Like asking as a non-native speaker.
Cook is just someone that like cooks stuff. A chef is someone that prepares proper meals. I don't know.
Chef is like sophisticated.
Yeah, that's what I guess. Anyway, we're going to get on to some listener questions. We've got a couple from Twitter, which I thought were actually quite interesting. So
dude, Kobe is not a listener. Kobe is an original founding member of Everyday Channel. He's like one of the legends of the legacy scene in Los Angeles. He was in the finals of SCG, I want to say, Gambler Town. What's it called where everybody gambles?
Las Vegas?
Not the stock exchange?
Las Vegas. Yeah.
He played Grizzlebrand.
I was about to say,
but he plays it.
He put tin fins on the map. So, do you really like
it?
Yeah,
some people might say tin fins put him on the map, but continue.
Hey. So he said... Anyway, I'm a big Corey fan. Shut up. My real question, as I haven't looked at Constructed Magic in any great strategic depth for over 2 years, is this the last round? That is, does this mark the end of Fire's damage to Constructed? Or do we have some more Aftershocks still waiting? What do you think?
Well, the thing is, I think Wizards has really gotten the notice like that people hate Fire. At the same time, Wizards, like Mr. Mark Rosewater, he tells us all the time, like sometimes he just like shows up to my house and he's like opens the door and he's like, Julian, we made more money than ever before with Fire. So that's like, it's like so-and-so. Wizards is making insane bank. They increased their revenue like 15%, and people might say, yeah, that's because of COVID, because everybody's staying home. But then again, if people are staying home, they're not buying paper cards. So I don't know. And it's also like not a thing about COVID, just specifically about COVID. Ever since 2009, like 2009 was the big thing. 2009 was one of the turning points in Magic when they changed everything around how they approach Magic. That's how they changed limited Magic. That's how they market They changed how they market Magic. And ever since then, they've been growing like crazy. Like it sounds weird if you didn't know about this, but like for Hasbro, Magic and Monopoly are the two biggest driving forces in increasing their revenue. Like they recently released their numbers and they are like, okay, yeah, we are fucked every which way, but Magic and Monopoly, those are going to carry our brand. So from that point of view, I think they're somewhat going to try to carry on with Fire. And now that they have also acknowledged that they are more happy to ban stuff if people don't like it, maybe they're going to continue. At the same time, people really hated the stuff that they fucked up. So I think they're going to continue being more willing to push fucked up shit. But also, maybe they're going to be somewhat... I mean, okay, I'm giving you a non-answer here, right? By saying, oh, maybe they're going to be somewhat hesitant to print like the really broken stuff. It's not like they printed Oko and they knew it was going to be insane. They literally said they just like fell through the checks. And I think they're probably going to dial it down a little bit, but not as much as people like. If it sounds weird, but I mean, as competitive players, you always got to remember we are probably the minority at this point, and that's just the way it is. Yeah. And it's not like a bad thing. It's just like the way it is. You're never going to have like a game where the majority is going to be like competitively focused players. It just like doesn't work that way, especially since like if you look at League of Legends or Dota or whatever. A lot of those people who sign up every day and who sign in and they play with their friends and whatever, none of those people are going to be like, oh, I'm going to be a pro gamer one day. And it's the same for us. So maybe we're not as competitive as we want to be. But there's like this giant pile, sounds condescending, right? this giant group of players who are okay with something being overpowered because they play 4-color multiplayer anyway.
Yeah, it's fun. They don't care if they lose to an overpowered thing because it happens now and then, and there's nothing on the line. It's not a thing that you do over and over again, and there's no like kind of pressure on them to be doing the best thing. So they just either they can choose to ignore the good stuff or they can go with it. Like it's a freedom to just do what they want in the game. Whereas these design mistakes, we can call them, are kind of forced upon us, and Legacy is a super old format, and we're used to a lot of like kind of structure around it, and it really has rocked the format the last couple of years. So back to the question, I'm quite optimistic about things. Half because of like this ban announcement, like they've shown that they are now willing to nuke stuff. And like Oko has gotten the probe treatment. It's like only legal in vintage now. And I mean, I'm just very happy about that. If they're willing to kind of quote unquote delete stuff from the game, fine. But please don't put us through a year of it again. I mean, this is the worry.
I just keep going back to, in my head, I keep going back to the Everyday Eternal episode where we wanted to talk about Oko, and one of our co-hosts was like, yeah, let's talk about playable cards. And now we're sitting here with this card only being legal in vintage at this point.
To be fair, the card doesn't look that powerful on the front.
Okay, I thought you were going to say, to be fair, we kicked him off the podcast. No, actually, we didn't. We didn't kick him off the podcast.
We killed him. What? But another thing that makes me optimistic is the recent sets have not been too bad. Like Kaldheim has nothing egregious like some of the mistakes we've had and stuff. We have Modern Horizons 2 on the horizon, to put it like that. So we have to wait.
Seriously, do we?
Yep. It's coming soon.
That's why we have you on the podcast, man. You can see the future. I didn't even know.
It shows how much you pay attention to
Didn't we
competitive Magic.
have like Modern Revised, Revisited or something? I'm pretty sure we had Modern Horizons 2 at some point.
Not yet. It's coming.
You really didn't?
So they're going to make a Arena 6 that costs 1 blue-black hybrid mana. Yeah.
Blue-black? I'm down.
Okay, cool. Anyway, to finish off the question, yeah, hopefully optimistic, but that's like my optimistic side speaking. So I think we should have to wait and see. As far as I know, Magic designers, they design for 3 years in the future as well. So we could have some surprises in our future, and we should have to wait it out. But today's ban announcement does kind of give some hope that they're willing to like change stuff, not just off the win rates like we said earlier.
Yeah, here's the thing. Here's like the big thing about Magic, because Magic is 99.99% of everybody who's listening to this hobby, including us. Like, there's seriously no point at all in not being optimistic about the future. Like, what's the point of not being optimistic about the future? Yeah, you might be disappointed about something not happening the way you want it to in, like, the next 6 months. But it's going to happen the way you want it to in the next 24 months. At least if you're, like, a follower of the Church of Julian, which I can very much recommend. It's free. But I think there's, like, no... Like, what's the upside of being pessimistic about the future of Legacy? Seriously, like, I don't get it. It's like, yeah, you score some points of like, oh, I'm being the cynic. Like, yeah, but nobody likes cynics, and cynics are weak anyway. So just like be optimistic about the future of Magic, and if it doesn't happen that way, yeah, maybe it's going to happen afterwards. That's the beauty. Seriously, as somebody, I mean, I say that as somebody who struggled with stuff in life, like everybody struggled with something in life. But the beauty of having a hobby is that at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter all that much. So might as well just be optimistic. And if it disappoints you, you just, I don't know. I was going to say go home and fuck your girlfriend, but that's probably like the wrong way to put it. Seriously, but like, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And if
I
you
agree
think
with
it
your
matters
sentiment,
all that much to you, then just like dial it down, play video games, and think about the future of Legacy. And I think it's going to be a bright future.
Yeah, I mean, we're not saying that people should like not care about the format, of course, but at the end of the day, I think your sentiment is right. It is a hobby, and it's an escape from things that you don't want to be doing otherwise. And so if you're not enjoying your hobby, you need to put a sign outside Wizards of the Coast saying ban Oko, is what we're saying, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not lying. Like, when everything was like pretty boring to me in Legacy, I was playing a lot more Brood War than I was playing Legacy, which is just like that's just like the way it works. And it's I think something for me that I had to really realize, and okay, I guess we should like end the podcast pretty quickly because I'm going like pretty deep here. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't enjoy your hobby right now. You can always enjoy it again in the future. If this ban announcement is not something you wanted to see, it's not like this is set in stone forever. Wizards gonna fuck things up again, and you can enjoy it.
Well, I hope not. I'm trying to be optimistic here. Don't say that. But look, this is true. But let me say, at the same time, this is something that people have put a lot of like their time and energy and effort into. And so, at the same time, yes, you do need to be able to sometimes take a step back and think, this is something that I'm not enjoying currently. I should do something else. But at the same time, they don't want to leave it because they put so much of themselves into it. And I think that's a beautiful thing about Legacy is people dedicate so much of their time and effort and energy into becoming a deck specialist or what have you. And so I don't think we should just say, yeah, just do something else. There's a balance between these things as well. So one of the most fantastic things about today was seeing so many friends on Twitter or on Facebook, whatever, saying how excited they are to be playing again. Like this last year really did push a lot of people away. So this is one of the best things also to come out of the thing. I've got such a long list of like all my favorite things to come out from it. I'm losing the end of it. But yeah, there's a balance between managing how much time you put to your hobby if you're not enjoying it, but also we shouldn't say that people like should just do something else, because
I mean, that's not what I wanted to say. Maybe it came across as that.
Okay.
But I think don't be scared because you don't enjoy. Like, it's okay to not. That's what I want to say. It's okay to not enjoy your hobby right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you've probably been enjoying it for many years. And there's very few hobbies that radically change in a way that you will never enjoy them again. And even if you do, it's actually liberating to acknowledge that in the rare occasions that this happens. And like everybody says, nobody really quits Magic ever. And yeah, that's why, to me, for as much as I hated the way Magic has been over the last couple of months, it didn't matter that much to me, because everybody talks about like how much they love the community, and it's kind of hard to love the community when you don't really get together all that much again. But then again, we have podcasts, we have streams, that also makes part of it. And I don't know, I feel like we've arrived to the point where it's getting so much better from here again, at least for me. I mean, it's not like, I know that I have friends who are like, oh shit, I wanted to play my 5-color control deck, and for as much as I hate that, it's not like I'm saying, oh, I'm right. I'm just saying I'm happy right now, and that's, at the end of the day, Wizards has no objective way to measure things other than win percentage and happiness. And if they see a lot of unhappiness, that's just like what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
Maybe I'm not sure if I'm making sense. I'm just happy that I have you on the show. I told you before the show you're going to have to carry this, and I think you're doing an awesome job, Callum. So everybody tell Callum how much of an awesome job he's doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, on the topic of carrying it, we've got one final question, or a couple, from Eternity Vessel. Yeah.
Oh, we do.
Yes. So I think these are cool questions because it's touching on what we spoke about before. One of them is, does Astrolabe ban also push out Yorion since there's fewer free value permanents laying around to blink? I'm going to say straight up, yes, absolutely.
Yes, fuck that guy.
I don't mind Yorion.
For all the positivity I've just tried to spread, Yorion is just like, it's the Yorion is the
Julian, let people enjoy things.
Of a 5-mana card.
I thought it was really cool that there was like a real decision between playing 60 and 80 cards, because there's such a stigma against not playing 60 cards.
Oh, is there? I've never heard about that.
No, I know. I'm very well aware. So I thought what Yorion did is really cool, but basically without Astrolabe, I don't think you'll see the control decks play it. That D&T, it's still a possibility, but there has to be like a control deck like Snow where Yorion outgrinds it. That has to be like a strong enough part of the format. So I think we'll see D&T return to 60 cards, pretty general stock builds until stuff adjusts, and then maybe if there's like another dominant control deck, we'll see Yorion come back there. But I'm pretty sure you won't see Yorion much more. Don't quote me on that because I'll probably eat a hat. By the way, I haven't had to eat that hat. In Search of Greatness has done nothing. Jeff 5-0'd like once with the Allure, and it's done absolutely nothing. So I'm hat free so far.
I bet he randomly had it like in the sideboard just to try to make you eat the hat.
Yeah. So I'm okay there. And
honestly, if I was working for Wizards and I wanted to make them infinite money, I would just tell everybody, hey, you know what? We just decided everybody can play 80 cards and construct it now, so we're going to make a lot more money.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I call it like the Yorion rules.
The Yorion rules. Well, wait, when do we get like 100 card restrictions? What would that card have to be like? You have to play with 100 cards, but you get an Oko as a companion. You can
play any kind of legend in your sideboard, and you can summon it straight from your sideboard, and it goes back to your sideboard, and you can cast it again for like 2 extra mana.
Does Gaia's Cradle count as a legend?
Oh my god! If Gaia's Cradle could be my commander, I'd be the supreme ruler of Legacy.
All right, your commander is Gaia's Cradle. Good. Let's get Wizards of the Coast to release a legendary Gaia's Cradle Snow because it's reserve list. Huh?
Honestly, it would probably like be the most insane if Caracas was your commander.
Oh yeah,
because
probably,
then you'd always have a land drop. I don't know if that's crazy.
I know
you're losing me here, man.
Okay,
carrying on.
Final question, just the follow up to Eternity Vessel's question. I think we actually covered this, so I'll just read out quickly. Is Icefang Quetzal playable at all, and how much of Quetzal's space in the format will be filled with Baleful Strix or nothing because the format has gotten faster? We went over a bit Coatl earlier. We said there's like some positives and some negatives, and I think the effect is good if it has like Death Touch consistently. So my gut feeling is Baleful Strix is better than Coatl now.
Yeah, it is very much.
Yeah, because losing
very much.
Yeah, losing Astrolabe is too big. I think there's probably more of a draw to black than green now. It's hard to say. Veil's still in the format, so is Uro. So this is to be determined. But I think Baleful Strix is a better card, like in a vacuum, and without Astrolabe, we'll probably see that.
It's gonna be interesting how much the like mid end game payoffs are gonna be important. Like Chase the Mind Sculptor, because a card like Coatl, it doesn't need to come down on the second turn of Death Touch. It can come down on the third turn of Death Touch. But then you're already looking at probably more like a Simic deck. It's kind of hard to make it like a Bant deck, but even though Bant is by far my favorite card. But if the payoffs are going to be worth it, then you will end up playing something like Icefang Coatl, because Icefang Coatl is really the card that lets you ramp into your 4-mana win condition. And now we circle back again, and that's gonna be something that I talked to my friend Marius Hausmann again earlier today. How much are wannabe control decks gonna be able to splash red for Pyroblast? Because Pyroblast is gonna dictate how viable Chase the Mind Sculptor is gonna be. And if everyone and their daughter or whatever it works is gonna play Pyroblast, then Chase is gonna be like a much more of a liability. But if not that many people are gonna be able to be playing Pyroblast, then I'm not so sure how they're really gonna fight. Like, how do you fight Chase outside of Pyroblast? There's not that many ways. Like, nobody really wants to put like Pithing Needle on Chase. Like, that's the worst feeling ever.
True Name Nemesis.
Oh, dude, is that card gonna be? Are we gonna be like?
I've forgotten about that card until now. Maybe.
I mean, there's still Plague Engineer, right?
Yeah, true. Which I like. That it's a nice check to it.
We haven't even talked about Elves yet, because Elves didn't lose anything, and it's still like one of the top decks in the format. Even more so
Elves
now.
is probably similar to Doomsday and Omni. Like it's a super good combo deck, although you think it's a mid-range deck, of course. So
of course it's a mid-range deck. What else would it be? Like, I don't even know, man.
To wrap up this episode, though, I think taking a step back and like kind of just thinking about what we've said on it, we've asked so many questions, which is really cool. I know I've said before how the format feels very open and don't really know what's going to happen, but the fact that we've been asking each other so many questions, and we've just basically said, I don't really know, we have to see, leaves a really positive spin on the end of this and the end of today. And yeah, I'm just super excited to see what's going to happen.
You know how like famous people are always slim? They're just like drunk, and I was just like too drunk to actually order pizza, because I was like, yeah, do I really want pizza? I don't know, man. I just like shoot the shit with my friend Callum from the UK, and I ended up not ordering pizza. So I'm like, hey, I didn't order pizza, so maybe I'm gonna become famous again.
I'm pretty sure that's gonna work out. So to wrap up the podcast, if you want to support Everyday Eternal, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or supporting us on Patreon. It helps us immensely, and as always, the Apple reviews help us immensely, push up the algorithms and stuff. You can always follow us on Twitter at EternalMTG. This is where we post any of our pre-show questions and stuff. You can at us to ask us questions, as we've done, answered questions just now for future episodes. Thank you, as always, to our Patreons. Eternal Witness tier is Tommy Hinks, Trent Browers, Testacular, Sebastian Holliger, and Severin. And the Grizzlebrand tier is Victor Bonance, Baju Batts, Scott Monroe, Jeremy Gates, Henry Courage, and Tom Hepp. Thank you, everyone, so much for the support. And let's play some Legacy. Goodbye, everyone.
Awesome. Shoutouts to Severin, because I was just updating our Patreons and I noticed that I didn't have Severin in the show notes. So sometimes people message me and they tell me they don't want to be in the show notes about like the people who support us. But I couldn't find a message from him, but I was like, Severin, I don't know why I didn't, like, that's why I didn't put your last name in there. But if you don't want to be there, just like shoot me another message. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. And yeah, maybe we're gonna make a special tier where people can support us with even more money and remain anonymous. We're gonna charge people not to shout out their names. That's what we're gonna do in the future.
Nice.
Everybody have a great time. If you wanna enjoy Legacy, this is your day, this is your time, and see you again in a couple of weeks. Bye bye.
Goodbye.